Let's face the facts, not every reptile makes a great pet. Some can be 8-foot-long dinosaurs with claws sharp enough to shred your skin. Some can be serpents that are 20 feet long and big enough to eat a whole pig. And some of them are fragile enough to where they croak dead just by looking at them funny. And you know what? I love them all. So join me on today's episode as we talk about a couple different reptile species that I absolutely adore, but would never recommend to anyone. My name's Ryder, this is Buck, and you're watching Copperhead Exotics. Stick around. How's it going, everybody? I hope you're enjoying your weekend thus far and you had a great Valentine's Day yesterday. If you haven't had the chance to already and you're still in the Valentine's Day spirit, why don't you go ahead and check out my Valentine's Day special that I posted last week. Trust me, that's a fun one. And I know this little event happened last week as well. You might not have heard of it. It's called the Super Bowl. Yeah, that happened. And I'm still trying to collectively forget that I watched Drake May get bullied for 4 hours straight.
All right, and nobody's blocking.
But enough about Drake May. Let's talk about Snake May. Hey man, they're not all comedy gold. There are a ton of awesome reptile species for you to keep out there, but truth be told, there are some reptile species that are honestly best kept for observation as opposed to interaction. And this by no means is meant to be a hate list. This is more of a don't ruin your life kind of list, because the quickest way that you can leave the reptile hobby after joining it is biting off more than you can chew. And in the case of some of the things on this list, quite literally. Starting off with our first animal, which is going to be tokay geckos. Now don't get me wrong, I adore me some tokay geckos. I think they're super duper cool. The fact that they get so large is really, really neat. That electric blue color with those orange spots is just beautiful to look at. So I certainly can get the appeal as to why somebody would want to get a tokay gecko. The problem is that these aren't just a blue crested gecko, as a lot of people might think they are. Tokay geckos are an extremely territorial gecko species, and they have the jaws to back it up. Back when I've worked with them before, I used to joke around and call them bulldog geckos because they bite you and they do not let go. And trust me, you might think you want a tokay, but your finger's not going to be tokay after it bites it. And while yes, there are keepers out there that have successfully tamed down tokay geckos, the vast majority of tokays that you're going to be able to buy on the pet trade are wild caught or imported. And so they come in dehydrated with a host of parasites and just a ton of attitude, which isn't great for any keeper to inherit, really. And although there are people out there who captively breed tokay geckos, it's not like the market is there to sustain having captive bred tokays. And it's difficult for me to 100% tell you not to get a tokay gecko because in terms of care, they're not necessarily difficult animals. Geckos by and large are some of the easiest reptiles you could possibly keep, and tokays are just bigger geckos. If anything, it should be easier than a bearded dragon. Where the difficulty comes is the behavioral aspect, right? The people who have managed to tame down tokay geckos are people who have the time and passion to dedicate vast amounts of patience with these animals. And I know you might think that you might be this gecko whisperer who picks up a tokay for 40 bucks at a Repticon and then suddenly you've got this awesome giant gecko that just loves you. That's not gonna happen. Trying to recommend a tokay gecko to somebody just because geckos are easy is the equivalent of me saying to you,
"Oh, you're looking for a pet? Oh, maybe a cat? Yeah, you should get a
feral one."
Really builds character.
You can see how that sounds completely backwards, right? And it's for all these reasons that I think for a vast majority of people, tokay geckos aren't something that I would recommend to you. I think there's a ton of other alternatives that make more sense. If you want a large gecko species that can sometimes bite, but for the most part can be tamed down, it still has the ease of care, get yourself a Leachianus gecko from New Caledonia. They're a lot friendlier, they're readily available captive bred, and they get bigger. And I've heard from some people online that size matters. I'm sure they're talking about geckos. Oh, and talking about size, that becomes the perfect segue into our next animal, which is going to be monitor lizards. Now, these are the animals that really influenced me to make this entire video. Because truth be told, I think monitors are some of the coolest animals on the planet. Straight up, these are living velociraptors. They're smart, they're awesome, they're bioengineered to be a predator, they're intelligent. But all of these things come at a cost. And unless you are the type of person who has a lifestyle that caters towards having a monitor lizard, monitors just frankly aren't good pets for anyone else. Being so incredibly intelligent and having that problem-solving capability causes a lot of problems for people who end up cementing these bad habits in their lizards. Because monitor lizards are smart, and they know exactly when you don't know what you're doing. A lot of people will see a baby monitor being sold at an expo for 150 bucks and pick it up thinking that it's going to be just this really cool pet. And yeah,
For sure, I'll totally put it in a bigger tank later.
but let me tell you this straight up. If your first thought when you get a monitor lizard is, how big of a tank should I put this thing in? Don't get a monitor lizard. You're already not the kind of person who needs to have a monitor if you think this thing is going in a tank. Because when your lizard can get 7 feet long, you're not putting that thing in a tank, you're putting that thing in a studio apartment. And then if you get an Asian water monitor, not only do you have a studio apartment for an enclosure, but then you also have to have a water feature. And by the way, this giant water feature that you're going to have for this giant 7-foot-long dinosaur that lives in your house, what's it going to use it for, you might add? Is it actually going to swim in it and do that thing that it was meant to do, being called a water monitor? No, why would you ever think that? No, this monitor, it's got poop in it. So you've got to dump out 50 gallons worth of poop water. And this is all assuming that your monitor lizard even likes you. Sometimes they don't. So you've got this 7-foot-long murder lizard with claws that are 4 inches long that can shred you and give you stitches just by looking at you funny, on top of the 50-gallon poop receptacle that you have in your studio apartment enclosure. And then when this giant tornado of bad decisions is swirling all around you, you have this flashback where you remember yourself going to that Repticon, and then the guy who sold you this Asian water monitor said,
Yeah, it's great for beginners.
and I know it makes it seem like I don't like monitor lizards. Trust me, I adore them. They are my dream lizard. I want to have one so badly, but I know myself and I'm responsible enough to not have that animal if I know that I don't have the time, space, or money to care for it properly. Because monitor lizards, frankly, are more than just a pet. It's a lifestyle. Because you don't have a pet lizard when you have a monitor. No, you have a scaly roommate that's equipped with a set of built-in bolt cutters when it gets bored. And for all of those reasons, I don't think monitors are something that most people should have. Despite them being so freaking cool. Oof, I need a breather. Enjoy 5 to 10 seconds of whatever I decide to throw up here. Boom. All right, we're back. The last thing we're going to talk about is something that a lot of people really seem to enjoy, and frankly, I don't get how the word hasn't gotten out that these aren't good pets yet, but chameleons. I tell you what, I blame Disney for this one, because if they didn't put Pascal in that Tangled movie and make him look so freaking cool, everybody wouldn't have this idea that somehow chameleons are great companion animals. The truth is, chameleons are not great companion animals. Truthfully, they're not great animals for most people. They're just colorful balls of stress, usually wrapped in a dehydrated and fragile package. And the main reason why people get them is to be a display animal, where they're not even that great at doing that. Don't get me wrong, chameleons are absolutely stunning to look at. If you've ever seen a male panther chameleon, beautiful, super handsome. But chameleons are extremely prone to stress. And so when you have a chameleon in an enclosure in the middle of your living room, and every single day, like clockwork, the kiddos of the household run up to it like it's Christmas Day, your chameleon is going to be extremely stressed out at all times. And that can honestly lead to a premature death, which in a chameleon's case might be 20 minutes. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but for real, chameleons are very prone to dying from stress, and they already don't live that long of a lifespan anyway. Most chameleons only live about 5 or 6 years in the best of conditions. And on top of that, their environmental conditions are very demanding for someone who's new into the hobby. A lot of reptiles need temperature and humidity in order to properly regulate their bodily functions. For example, Buck here is a ball python. Ball pythons are a semi-tropical species, and so they need a higher humidity than what most entry-level snakes are going to need. If I don't offer him that higher humidity, he has difficulty shedding, and it can cause respiratory problems because if he has a dry nasal passage, it's going to produce more mucus. Chameleons also need this humidity, but they also need high airflow and ventilation. And if you're thinking to yourself,
Well, how the heck do I keep humidity in an enclosure that has high ventilation?
well, welcome aboard. You're starting to see the problem here. The best part is that even if you do all of this correctly, it might still die. Yep, because the immune system of a chameleon is about as fragile as a paper straw that you'd get from Starbucks. Pair this with the fact that every other chameleon species outside of veileds and panthers is vastly wild-caught in the pet trade, and you really set yourself up for success now, haven't you? But having said all of that, there are some good things about all of these species, right? Because like I said at the beginning of the video, I adore all of these animals. This video might not seem like I adore these animals, but I truthfully adore every single one of the animals that we've discussed today. A lot of the things that we've discussed today are species that frankly just have a ton of intrigue behind them. They're incredibly interesting to learn about, and that's why a lot of people flock to them. I'm not so ignorant as to think that people will stop buying chameleons, because why wouldn't they? They're really unique and awesome and kind of alien in the coolest way possible. The problem is that all of the species we've covered today, as well as many, many others that I didn't get to talk about in this video, demand a certain level of expertise and patience that most people aren't willing to give their animal. And that's a sad reality, because these animals are tremendously cool. And for those individuals who have the passion to care for them right and are prepared for those challenges, they might be the perfect pet for you. I'm so incredibly envious of all of the people that I see who have these incredible water monitor enclosures, who have these beautiful panther chameleons. But it would be irresponsible of me to hop on this camera and tell you that that is an achievable reality for most people. Because it's not, and in a way that is a con, but in a way that's also a pro, and why these animals are so interesting. They demand a certain level of respect from the keeper. So I guess in summary, what I'm saying is that all of these animals do not make great pets for anyone, but they do make great pets for someone.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Put that on a coffee mug or something. And although I wouldn't recommend all the animals on this list, here is something that I would recommend. Subscribe to the channel! If you like to hear me yap about all these other things and you want to hear me talk about other topics, I do upload every single Sunday, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my new uploads. And if you liked today's video, go ahead and leave a thumbs up down below, as well as comment your experiences with some of the animals that we've discussed today. What are some other animals that maybe you love but wouldn't recommend to somebody? And if you happen to be one of the individuals who really wanted that monitor lizard, or you really wanted to have a towhead gecko, and maybe you're looking for some alternative species, I already have videos up on my channel where I highlight some of the best beginner snakes, lizards, and spiders for new keepers. So check that out. Trust me, you'll find some much better options on there. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next week. Have a good one.